Hi guys, TotallyDubbed here, and today I'm doing a video review on the Zeblaze Thor 4 Dual 4G. Now this watch has received quite a lot of attention online, so I was very much intrigued to receive it via Banggood. The link in the description below will take you to Banggood's website. It can be found for around £100. That doesn't include import or shipping fees, so just bear that in mind. Now in the package what you'll find is a charging cable, the watch itself, and a little screwdriver with small little screws, and that is simply to remove the rear plate over here so that you can access the SIM card slots. So yes, this has a built-in SIM card slot. Now first let's talk about the specs before actually going into the review. Now the watch itself weighs around 72 grams, at least that's according to the specification website. In terms of the actual size of it, it's around 50 millimeters from the top and bottom in terms of diameter, so it's got 50 millimeter sort of size, but then the actual depth of it, as you can see, is pretty thick. It's around 16 to 17 millimeters. So that is pretty thick in comparison to some of its competitors, which are a lot thinner. If I just compare it quickly to my Swatch watch, and I know this is not a smartwatch, but you can see the complete difference in terms of size, both in terms of its face and in terms of the depth of it. So now, size aside, and in terms of weight, this has a MediaTek MTK 6739 quad-core processor, which actually means that you can do quite a lot of it, and I'll show you that in just a bit. It's got 1 GB of RAM, 16 GB of internal storage, give or take, given the conversion. Therefore, you can save music on it, you can actually save files on it, and even videos, and you can watch it directly on the watch, which is pretty crazy. And of course, you can install all your apps that you'd like to do. Now, in terms of connectivity, it's got Bluetooth, it's got Wi-Fi, and it's also got the SIM card slots. Well, therefore, you know, in terms of 4G connectivity, it's a nano SIM slot, so do bear that in mind. There is no NFC, so no, you cannot make payments directly with this, which seems to be some case that a lot of reviewers have actually completely forgotten to actually mention, but no, it does not have any sort of NFC capabilities in there. It's a fully touchscreen display. The touchscreen display is actually really nice in terms of the look of it. It's an AMOLED 1.4 inch screen, and you can see the colors, and in terms of how it looks, it just looks really popping out there, and I must say I'm very impressed with the overall the screen itself. Moving on from that, it's got a battery capacity of 530 milliamps. Now the battery itself, even though it's quoted at around 2 days of standby time and around 3 hours of charge time, I actually find it to far exceed that, and I'll get into that in just a bit as well. Then moving on from that, it is the material of it itself is made out of zinc alloy, and the band itself is silicon. So do bear that in mind in terms of the design and in terms of how you go around it. Now around the back, what you'll find is a heart rate sensor. So it does have a heart rate sensor which actually works pretty well. I couldn't test it versus a professional grade heart rate sensor, but all I can say is the heart rate sensor does seem to work, and versus other smartwatches that I've tested in the past, seems to be relatively accurate. In terms of charging, now I wasn't a big fan of the charging module. It's a magnetic charger which attaches like so, and what I found is that it is a little bit flimsy because it can come off very easily, which is great if you want to take it off, but I would have preferred like a sort of dock where you can actually just place the watch on there. This does, however, mean that this is a little bit more portable than your normal dock type of look, because you can pop this in your pocket very easily and then therefore charge it wherever you go. There was no wall adapter, so you'll just have to plug this into your computer or any other wall adapter that you have laying around the house, such as your phone charger. So now moving on to the actual watch itself. Now the watch itself connects up via an app. The app is the We Watch app. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a great app, but it does the job. Now through here you can see the overall battery life. You can repair it if you need to. You can also see the step counts that you've done today, which, as you can see, very minimal. I've been very lazy at home. You can choose different running modes, and you can also monitor your heart rate. Through here you can also customize the dial directly through the app, and then through the settings parts you can also see that you've got a variety of different options, such as you can send a file which is maximum 50 megabytes straight to the watch itself. It works really well in terms of identifying what you've got on your phone and then transferring it. You've got the raise the screen function, which essentially, you know, if you were to raise the screen or the watch, I don't know if it's going to work, as I'm not really technically, there you go, raising the screen, that will activate. You can enable or disable app notifications. I've disabled it, all of them on my side. Anyway, and then going from that, you can update the software, and that's pretty much it, what you can do through the app. Now the app itself, as I said, I wasn't a massive fan of, but all honestly, you don't have to use the app all the time. It really is a watch where you could actually use it independently from your phone. So now, first of all, in terms of powering on and off and actually waking it, other than the raise to wake, you've got the right side button. Now the right side button wakes it and allows you to go through different settings, and the bottom button allows you to go back. So if you go back on terms of the previous screen. Now if we swipe to the right, what you'll see straight away is a notification such as Pokemon Go has been successfully installed. If I swipe up, you'll be able to see a quick sort of the settings. So over here it's connected via Bluetooth to my phone but has no SIM card installed. It's got the date and also the percentage in terms of battery life. If I swipe across, you've got quick settings as well. You can toggle, let's say, airplane mode or enable disable GPS or Wi-Fi. And yes, that's another thing I forgot, it does have GPS built in as well. Then moving on, you've got a quick cleanup utility which kind of cleans background processes. Then you've got audio controls, and you've also got, as I said before, you've got storage. So if I were to play over here, it should play some music. And I'm not going to do too long because I'll get probably copyrighted, but there's the speaker which is located over here underneath the watch. And then going through over here, you've got the weather, which you'll have to update. So for example, if I update it over here, it'll come up with the latest weather information. Anyway, so now moving on from that, if I just go back to the home screen and swipe to the right, you'll be able to see then I've got all the list of apps, and including apps that you'd like to install. So for example, over here I've actually installed Pokemon Go, and I'll get into that in just a bit. There are certain apps you can install via the actual Zeblaze app store, such as Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and YouTube. Very simple, but they can be done without having to install, sign into your account on your Play Store. So this, as it's running full Android, you can fully download anything you wish via the Play Store, and it works pretty flawlessly. As you can see, that is the Play Store. Now, moving on from that, so let's just go from top to bottom. You can access your contacts on phone. Unfortunately, this doesn't act as a way of contacting the ones on your phone. It has to be the one via the SIM card on your actual device itself. Messaging, settings, browser, downloads, they're all pretty much kind of given, but then you've got the camera function. Now the camera function I actually found to be, not say useless, but it's actually quite interesting over here. So you've got a side camera over here, which is placed over here. It's a 5 megapixel camera, and then you've got the front facing camera, which you'll be able to see me talking in the background, and the actual my camera tripod. So essentially over here you can take videos and photos directly from this, and I must say it does work pretty well, and its 5 megapixel sensors do a decent job at what you'd expect. However, the actual use case of having two cameras on one smartwatch is a little bit excessive in my opinion. Even having an actual camera on it altogether, I think, is a little bit excessive. And don't get me wrong, you can do some cool things with it. So for example, if you were to put it on your left hand and you were to scan a QR code, you could activate the camera over here. If you wanted to do a video call, you could activate the top camera part over here. So now what I'm going to show you is some video samples and some picture samples straight from the camera, from the watch, sorry, so you'll be able to see how that actually looks like. First testing the side camera, so this is on this side right here. See my hand, and seems to be doing fine. If I just move in terms of the lens, go far, seems to be absolutely fine in terms of focusing. So there we go. I'm testing now the forward facing camera, holding the camera in my hand, so I'm just going to see how it does with different lighting. As you can see, not bad at all. In terms of focusing, let's just go up close and then go all the way back as well. Seems okay in terms of focusing as well.
pretty impressive results. Let's see how it looks like on the PC.
So then moving on from that, the actual camera, you can access the gallery, music, and that's music as in files that are stored on your actual watch itself. Sound recorder, file manager, heart rate monitor, as I mentioned before. You can activate your heart rate. As you can see, it's starting to go green and trying to measure a heart rate. Then from there, you've got different fitness applications. So if you click fitness, what you'll have is you can activate different sort of modes. So for example, if you want to go on an outdoor run, there's different modes you can select through, and you can start recording it and enable or disable GPS to get more accurate results. The GPS function is great, it actually works pretty well, and it does pinpoint your location pretty well as well. You've got voice search if you want to search with your voice, as you might imagine. Maps is built-in maps, aside from the actual Google Maps function, it's pretty much the same thing. Assistant, which basically helps you connect to your phone, access different sort of things such as like sending files or even finding your device. And then going back again, you can see that these are the default apps. Now, as I said before, I was going to talk about Pokemon Go, and that's simply because I actually was able to play or install and play Pokemon Go on this little watch. I just couldn't believe the fact that I was able to play Pokemon Go on this watch. But yes, I had no problems whatsoever using the watch as a Pokemon, playing Pokemon Go. So what this really means is that this I was going to say phone, but really this watch acts somewhat like a phone. It runs independently, specifically if you've got a SIM card in there, and therefore doesn't mean you have to rely on having a phone with you. Whereas a lot of smartwatches out there, even though they've got SIM cards in there, they do rely a lot on their phones to be the companion. Whereas over here, you've got the cameras to take pictures, you've got the connectivity of all sorts, and you've got the actual display to actually see what you can, and a fully touchscreen display, meaning that this is really a completely independent device. And at £100, that seems like a really good deal. However, there are some things to consider. First of all, this has no waterproofing whatsoever. Other watches are waterproof or have got some sort of IP rating. This unfortunately doesn't. Specifically with all its modules like the camera or the speaker or the heart rate sensor, it does mean that you can't really submerge this watch, which might put off a few people such as sport fanatics or people who like swimming with their watch. The next thing and the biggest thing for me was the actual size of the thing. It's not overly heavy, to say the least, specifically because it's a smartwatch, but I just don't like its size. It's massive. On my wrist, and I've got, say, medium-sized wrist, I do find that the watch just feels a little bit too big. As you can see, it just looks humongous on my wrist. Now, I'm a male, 28 years old, and I don't really have the biggest wrists in the world, nor am I a massively built guy, but all I can say is that this thing did really feel heavy. You can really feel it there. If, however, you're a man or a woman who has relatively big wrists or want something that's a lot bigger, then yeah, absolutely, you won't have a problem. But just remember, it is a chunky monkey, to say the least. Moving on from that is actually the battery life. Now, the battery life, I think it was a little bit of a hit and miss. It depends on the amount of stuff you have on. Now, in my test, I left it on idle, and it pretty much was able to run with Wi-Fi and GPS enabled, and the Wi-Fi was connected, Bluetooth was disabled, and that ran for around 79 hours. That was with the screen off, and it's sitting basically on idle. There's no real background processes that were taking place with this watch. So really, you're looking at around a 1 day-ish usage before you have to charge it up again. So therefore, it does mean that it does run out of battery relatively quick, but your mileage may vary. If you were to disable Wi-Fi, disable GPS, then suddenly what you'll find is your battery life will increase tremendously. And then of course, depending on how much you actually use or interact with the screen. So if you are someone who interacts a lot with the screen, expect around a day, if not a little bit less. If you are someone who doesn't interact that much with their screen and just basically uses check time or check your notifications that come on, say, your phone, then what you'll find is you'll be hitting a day or maybe 2 days of usage. And of course, there's the LCD, the brightness of it as well. So there's loads of different factors to consider over here, but all I'll be trying to say over here is that the battery life isn't the best, but nor is it absolutely shocking for what you're getting. In terms of charge time, it does take quite a little while to charge. It took around 3 hours to charge from empty. It's not super long, but you might expect a faster charging with a more modern device nowadays. So then, moving on from that, it is really my overall opinions and thoughts, and would I purchase this thing for around £100? Well, honestly, for £100, if you can get over the size of it and the fact that it's not waterproof, then I would absolutely recommend it. It does really everything you'd ever want from a watch. In fact, it does way more than it. I feel that personally, if they were to do away with these two modules, these two camera modules, we could reduce the thickness a little bit of this thing, and potentially even the weight, which might make it a little bit more appealing to a wide variety of crowds, such as, let's say, my fiancée, who's a lady, and will find it that she has smaller wrists, and therefore it means that this massive chunky thing won't look ridiculously large on her wrist. So that would be my own personal input and my biggest complaint about it, the actual size and physical thing of the thing, the physical size of the thing. So there we go, guys. That's been it, really. As I said before, Banggood were the one who sent me this for an honest review. I haven't been paid or sponsored in any way, so I just really was curious more than anything, because I saw a lot of traction online about these Zeblaze watches, specifically this one, and the fact that it had two cameras on it was a bit crazy. So I just really wanted to check it out, and there we go. So I've been Totally Dubbed. Hopefully you've enjoyed this honest review. Make sure you give it a like if you like it. Subscribe if you want to see more honest content. And let me know in the comments below what you think of this watch. Alright guys, I've been Totally Dubbed. Take care and bye-bye.